Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into one of the Bible's most enduring enigmas. A ritual so perplexing, it said even King Solomon, renowned for his boundless wisdom, confessed he couldn't fully grasp its meaning.
Yeah, imagine that, if Solomon couldn't figure it out.
Exactly. That really sets the stage for today's deep dive, doesn't it?
It certainly does. We're talking about the Red Heifer rite, detailed in the book of Numbers, chapter 19. On the surface, the instructions seem, well, straightforward enough.
But beneath that simplicity lies a profound puzzle. It's something that has captivated, confused, and maybe even divided interpreters for millennia.
Absolutely.
So our mission today is to unpack these layers. We'll explore the truly unique characteristics that set this commandment apart from, virtually all other biblical rituals.
And uncover some surprising, maybe even uncomfortable connections to other ancient practices.
Yeah, and see how it has been understood and often misunderstood across centuries and cultures. You'll be surprised by the theological debates and even controversies this single ritual has sparked.
And what it might reveal about the origins of ancient religious practices themselves.
For this deep dive, we've pulled from a really rich tapestry of sources. We have historical and theological analyses tracing interpretations through Jewish and Christian traditions.
Alongside more modern, comparative, and critical analyses. And crucially, we also have insights into Muslim interpretations, which offer yet another fascinating lens, often with some very pointed commentary.
Okay, let's dive right into the ritual itself, because that's where the mystery truly begins and where it immediately sets itself apart.
Right. The command is quite specific. Bring a perfectly red cow. Has to be perfect.
Without blemish, never been yoked. Bring it to Moses and Aaron, who then hand her over to Eleazar, Aaron's son.
And this is where it immediately diverges. Almost every other sacrifice, happens at the altar within the sacred space, the camp or tabernacle.
But this heifer is led out of the camp to be slaughtered. That's not just a minor detail, is it?
Not at all. It's a crucial distinction. It hints that something profoundly different is going on here.
That's right. And then Eleazar the priest takes some of her blood, sprinkles it 7 times towards the sanctuary, the tent of meeting back then.
But here's another truly distinguishing feature, maybe the most striking one.
The burning.
The burning. The entire carcass is burnt. And this is key, including the skin, flesh, blood, even the dung.
The dung. That's definitely different.
Totally different. And they throw cedar wood, scarlet stuff, and hyssop into the flames, too. This complete consumption is, well, almost unheard of for other sacrifices.
Okay, so after this really thorough burning, the ashes are meticulously collected, kept in a clean place.
And their sole purpose, to be mixed with water. They create a purification solution, basically, for people ritually defiled by contact with a human corpse, remains, or a grave.
Right. But then we hit this truly paradoxical outcome. This is what really sets this rite apart from all others, I think.
You mean how the ashes purify the unclean?
But everyone who participates in the rite, or even just handles the ashes, they become Levitically unclean.
Exactly. The priest, the one who burns the heifer, the ash gatherer, they all have to wash their garments, bathe, and they stay impure until evening.
It's like the cleaning agent contaminates the handlers. It's completely backwards.
It's an inverted logic compared to other sacrifices. And what's crucial here is its unique goal. It's not atonement like a typical sin offering.
No, the red heifer rite isn't offered to God. It's not performed in the temple or tabernacle. It's just out there.
Its whole function is to provide a material, these ashes, for a cleaning product. And yeah, it's the only sacrifice mentioned that explicitly includes burning excrement. That really highlights its distinct, almost non-sacrificial nature within the wider law.
That profound peculiarity, this inversion of purity and impurity, it naturally led to centuries of attempts to understand it.
Makes sense. People need answers.
Well, early Jewish perspectives, like in the Mishnah's Tract Para, there's a key compilation of Jewish oral law, they focused almost exclusively on the minute details, how to do it.
But pointedly avoided explaining why.
Exactly. The attitude is kind of summed up in the phrase, this is the statute of the law. It implies a divine decree, no explanation needed, beyond human grasp.
Rashi, the great medieval commentator, even said it was forbidden to seek its understanding. He called it an enactment from before me, you have no right to criticize it, shows deep respect for divine command, even when it seems impenetrable.
And the tradition that King Solomon couldn't fathom it, echoed in the Midrash, just reinforces this. Some even said it wouldn't be fully understood until Elijah comes.
A mystery locked away for the future.
But even with that strong don't ask vibe, the human mind, it wants answers. And this drive got stronger when, as our sources note, unbelievers started pointing out similarities to heathen magic.
Ah, so external pressure forced internal explanation.
Seems like it. It pushed Jewish scholars towards allegory. And this is where we find a really surprising connection, almost like an ingenious riddle.
You're talking about the golden calf connection.
Yes, it's fascinating. Some rabbis suggested the red heifer, a cow, was sacrificed to purge the guilt to the golden calf, the red color reminding them of the idol.
That is ingenious, as you say. Maybe a bit of a stretch, but clever. Connecting two key bovine moments in Israel's story.
It's incredibly creative. Linking a golden calf and a red cow. I mean, think about it. Gold can have reddish tones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And historical pigments like ochre or bright saffron mentioned in the Quran regarding the cow actually are reddish or orange-yellow. So there's this sort of chromatic link, this reddish hue, tying them together in this allegorical way.
A fascinating visual connection, yeah. What other allegories popped up?
Oh, they didn't stop there. The heifer was seen as Israel itself, rebellious, unyoked, or even Israel's enemies like Egypt or Rome.
Oppressors.
Others saw it as the law itself, or even the evil inclination within humans. It shows how flexible allegory can be, almost bending the text to fit a lesson.
Right, you can make it mean almost anything if you try hard enough.
Christians, too, found deep symbolic meaning. They often use that principle. Iedem sunt in vetere et novo, ibi obumbrata hic revelata.
Meaning the Old and New Testaments are basically the same. The Old foreshadows what the New reveals.
Exactly. So the red heifer became a type, a symbol of Christ. That's suggested in the Epistle to the Hebrews.
And Christian commentators really ran with that. Sometimes, as one source puts it, they violently treated the text to make it fit, like the Epistle of Barnabas swapping a calf for the heifer to link it better to Jesus.
Shows how strong that determination was to find Christ everywhere in the Old Testament. Augustine had this elaborate typology too: red color for Christ's passion, fire for resurrection, ashes for gospel preaching, water for baptism.
And later Protestant commentators like Poole and Matthew Henry continued this. They saw Christ's voluntary sacrifice, his suffering, the imperfection of the old priesthood, all foreshadowed.
But here's the critique our sources raise. While these allegories are fascinating, their very flexibility makes them kind of unreliable, doesn't it?
Yeah, this long search for meaning, as the source says, ultimately leads no whither. The argument is, if God intended to teach these profound doctrines, why wrap them up in such an obscure, convoluted transaction?
It's a powerful point. If it's not allegory, then what is the origin? What's the purpose?
This is where a comparative approach comes in, looking beyond Israel. It turns out the idea of defilement by death is almost universal. India, Persia, Greece, Rome, Indigenous Americans, Africa, Tibet.
Everywhere, basically.
Pretty much. There's this shared ancient belief system, often around the concept of taboo, that quality of something divine or demonic or just uncanny, that's infectious.
And this is where the red heifer's specific details start to align, maybe unnervingly, with sacrifices to the dead. Totally different from offerings to Yahweh.
Take the color red. It's the color of blood, of life, used in funerary rites everywhere. Red coffins, banners, pigment on bodies.
The Greeks offered red victims to underworld gods, right? And the Egyptians to Set, their god of death and pestilence, often depicted with red hair.
Exactly. It points to a much older, possibly animistic root for the red heifer's redness. Not about sin, maybe, but about life force connected to death rituals.
And the fact it's a female victim.
Also typical for offerings to the shades, the dead, in Gentile customs.
But the blood handling that seems like the clincher. You said unlike other sacrifices where Yahweh gets the blood at the altar.
Right. Here, the blood was shed away from the sanctuary. Jewish tradition even forbade catching it in a vessel. Any blood not sprinkled just flowed onto the ground.
Which is exactly what happened in sacrifices for the dead elsewhere.
Precisely. Our source suggests the sprinkling towards the sanctuary was maybe a very superficial attempt to disguise the original rite, a later addition to try and kosherize it, so to speak.
Wow. That's a radical idea, that this core biblical ritual might actually be a repurposed pagan practice. Makes you rethink how these traditions evolve.
It really does, and it gets more specific. The entire carcass, wholly consumed by fire on the ground. No altar mentioned. Just like Greek offerings to the dead on low altars or the ground itself.
And the location. The Mount of Olives.
Yeah.
Not just any hill.
Nope. An ancient burial place for Jerusalem. The source calls it the very place haunted by the spirits of the departed. Even the Talmud acknowledges needing a bridge over the Kedron Valley to avoid corpse contamination when taking the heifer there.
So the place itself screams death.
It really does. And suddenly that paradox we talked about, the participants becoming unclean, starts to make a different kind of sense.
How so?
The theory suggests that consecration to the dead is pollution for the service of Yahweh. Engaging in this death-related ritual, even if adapted, inherently pollutes you for serving the God of life.
So the whole thing could be a superstitio, a survival from older animistic religion, sort of grandfathered into Israelite law.
That's the theory. Retained maybe because it was ancient, deeply ingrained, people believed in appeasing the departed, but put under proper safeguards, turn into a quasi-sacrifice to Yahweh to distance it from its less palatable origins.
That connection to pagan roots, especially Egyptian ones, is really potent. How does Spencer's theory specifically tie the red heifer back to the golden calf, given that context?
Well, our sources emphasize the deep Egyptian roots of cow veneration. Israelites were steeped in it. Remember, Egyptians sacrificed red bulls to set god of pestilence, death, red hair association, killer of Osiris? But cows were sacred to Isis.
Okay, so a complex cow cultus.
Exactly. Spencer's theory of accommodation suggests God might have ordained the red heifer rite precisely to counter this, to bring the Egyptian vaccine cultists, their cow worship, into contempt, and maybe to expiate Israel's past fixation on set worship.
A divine counter-ritual that explains the uncanny closeness between the calf and the heifer.
Right. It's not just that they're both bovines. It's that color link again. We talked about the reddish aspect connecting the gold of the calf, ochre, saffron, and the red of the heifer.
So a common origin in ancient Egypt, but one rite becoming an antidote to the other.
That's the idea, and it leads to that really provocative statement in our sources.
Yes.
Those who dream of the restoration of this ritual are like the adorers of the golden calf.
Wow, that's quite a statement. It implies they're fundamentally misunderstanding its purpose, its connection to fighting past idolatry.
Exactly. It reframes the whole thing.
Okay, let's shift to the Muslim perspective. The Quran's longest chapter, Al-Baqarah, the cow, talks about this, right? Verses 67 and 71 detail Moses commanding the slaughter of a cow.
It does. And it's often presented as a test for the Israelites, one they didn't handle particularly well, according to the commentators.
And this is where we see some strong views, even hostility towards Jewish behavior in the commentaries.
Yes, as our sources highlight. Syed Abul Ala Maududi, a prominent Pakistani Islamist thinker, saw the command as a test precisely to disabuse Jews of their cow-venerating attitudes, which he blamed on contact with neighbors, especially Egyptians.
He saw their questioning as stubbornness.
Yes, stubbornness and evasion that made the task harder, portraying them as resistant to God's instruction.
And Ibn Kathir, another major commentator.
Very similar framing. He calls their actions stubbornness and unnecessary questions, implying disobedience, misbehavior towards prophets. He explicitly links it to their reverence for cows and grain during Egyptian slavery.
So from his view, they just couldn't bring themselves to slaughter something they revered.
That's his interpretation. He says reverence for cows had seeped into the hearts of the children of Israel, making them resist God's command. It's a pretty critical portrayal of their motives.
Given that this chapter, the cow, is the longest in the Quran and focuses so much on Allah's relationship with Moses and the Jews, how did commentators handle this? The extensive focus on a people often portrayed negatively.
That created a kind of embarrassment, as one source puts it. Why give so much airtime to a people presented as flawed?
So what was the strategy?
The strategy detailed by commentators, as reported in our sources, was often to present the Jews in a negative and derogatory way, mischievous, idolatrous, stubborn. This, in their view, justifies Allah's intense focus on them, explaining why he engaged so much with them despite these perceived flaws. It aligns the text with a specific narrative.
And just to be clear, we're reporting these perspectives from the sources, not endorsing them.
Absolutely, just conveying the interpretations found in the commentaries.
Okay, and that wraps up our deep dive into the Red Heifer rite. We've gone from a seemingly simple command to this incredibly complex web of history, interpretation, pagan parallels, theological debate.
And those sharp criticisms from Muslim commentators, adding another layer.
This really peculiar rite, maybe once a quasi-sacrifice to Yahweh, meant to wean Israelites off foreign cults,
has become this symbol loaded with such profoundly different meanings across traditions. Its sheer enigma, that purity paradox, the echoes of animism, it really forces us to confront how religious traditions evolve, layer, and reinterpret themselves.
So as you, the listener, reflect on this, maybe consider, What other ancient rites might hold similar hidden histories, where straightforward commands might mask these deep forgotten origins or reveal surprising, even uncomfortable links to the very practices they aim to replace?
Yeah, what else are we potentially overlooking, hidden in plain sight within these ancient texts? Makes you think.